As we begin Unit 4, we're going to start with Chapter 11, which includes sexual reproduction and meiosis. Recall that meiosis is a separate form of karyokinesis from mitosis, which we covered at the end of Unit 3. Now, a lot of this is going to be some background information that we've already covered, so I'm going to go pretty quickly through this. So reproduction is necessary. It's characteristic of all living things. And reproduction involves the transmission of traits from one generation to the next. And we call this process inheritance. It comes from the Latin word heir, which comes from heredity, right? Meaning that offspring will get their traits from their parents. Now, it's interesting and necessary that with this inherited similarity, there is also some necessary variation. And this means that offspring are going to differ from their parents and siblings. And this variation is essential to life on Earth. It's what has produced our wonderful biodiversity by forming new species by the processes of natural selection that we talked about at the beginning of the semester. It also has allowed humans to undergo an artificial selection process to breed for special traits in certain breeds of dogs or varieties of crops. And so in this unit, we're going to be studying heredity and hereditary information. And this is basically the field of genetics. Now, we can look at genetics at three different levels. We can look at genetics at the molecular level, literally the molecules of DNA, the sequences of bases, and so forth. We can look at genetics at a cellular level within a single nucleus and look at how the individual cells function using this genetic material, sort of the secret to life that we talked about earlier this semester. Or we can look at genetics at an organismal level, where looking to see what traits are included in this hereditary information that can be passed from one generation to the next. So in genetics, we're going to be referring to things as genes, these units of heredity. Remember that genes are segments of DNA, and these are literally the sequence of bases along the sugar phosphate backbone that form our genetic language. Most genes code for the synthesis of proteins, and remember that the protein's shape is very important to their function, and ultimately the shape comes from the sequence of amino acids that builds the polypeptide. Now, the DNA of eukaryotic organisms is subdivided into discrete units called chromosomes. And we looked at chromosomes at the very end of Unit 3 in great detail. And so recall that each species has a characteristic number of chromosomes. Humans have 46. Now, each different gene, a unit of heredity, is going to be located on the same chromosome in any given organism. Now, the gene's location on the chromosome is termed the gene's locus.